Coming up on AI Haven't a Clue.
Tesla's Optimus robot. He's called his robot.
Why is he called it a transformer name?
Jeff Bezos is powering up Alexa's AI, and Deloitte have some costly hallucinations.
He's become the world's first half-trillionaire.
Sound a bit more excited for him.
Plus, we're talking all about AI legal fights.
So when you hear that as a lawyer, you get incredibly squeamish. This was a legal threat. We believed people were stealing our content. We did. Do you trust human content more than AI content? And the UK came out 70% saying...
Hello and welcome to AI Haven't a Clue. Did I sound surprised there, James?
You sounded shocked and surprised.
Every week apparently I sound surprised according to...
It's the listeners, it's the people.
Yeah. Well, welcome. I'm not surprised to be here because we are unpacking the wild world of AI where things change on a week-by-week basis, which is quite handy when you do a weekly podcast about AI.
Indeed, it's as if we've thought that through right from the start.
My name's George Butler. I am a tech novice. I know very little. James Chandler, however.
Yeah, a little bit. I can speak to machines in binary code.
Wow. Go on. Right, on that note, big show today. Loads happening in the news. As always in the world of AI, the news is fast-paced and ever-changing. We've got some huge news stories from Amazon's Alexa to China with the AI wars continuing, plus some quite strange and freaky bits going on in the world of media as well. And we'll be chatting to a brilliant legal mind, General Counsel at YouGov. He's been working in AI for years now. William Bowe later on. He's going to be absolutely fascinating. But, James, first, would you mind if we kick off with what's been making the headlines in the world of AI this week?
I would not mind.
It would be an issue if you did, because we've got a podcast to fill. Quick note to start us off with. Following our listener question last week about why Amazon Echoes have become a bit useless, and I genuinely am getting so frustrated with my Alexa. It's getting worse. Is that a thing, or is it just that my expectations of what an AI is growing so high now?
I think it's the latter. Yes, definitely not getting worse. There's no benefit in them doing that. Yeah, we talked about Alexa Plus, didn't we, last week, which was very, very timely, given that Amazon are going to unveil a whole load of new Echo devices, loads of new ones that you can use. So the hardware is going to come with this new Alexa Plus, which is going to be far more sort of chat GPT like. It'll be able to answer all the big questions rather than just being used as a glorified stopwatch.
Will the voice change, or will it be similar, do you reckon?
I don't know. It'd be interesting. You could pick your own voice. What if you've got a Siri, by the way? I've got this lovely Irish lady.
That's...
Of course you don't have to change it.
Hey Siri, what voice have you got right now?
I'm currently speaking at...
Oh, he's got the default.
Oh, it's the classic. What's yours? Let's see yours.
Yeah, mine. Hey Siri, how you doing? You all right?
There are a few Sean No songs I know from back home, but now is not the time.
There you go. Wonderful. Little perky.
Get out of town.
There you go. I'll show you how to do it one day. Don't worry.
What?
Yeah,
why did you land on the Irish lady?
It's like having the sort of default. What's the default font you get when you open Office because you don't have to change it? That's you. That's
it is,
you.
isn't it?
I expected more from a zillennial. That's a shame.
Wow, yours is very House of Guinness. I like it. Yeah, so new Alexa, it's not going to be like, I'm asking one of my Alexa contributors and not give me a bleeding answer.
Proper conversation AI would be much better.
Okay, thank you, Jeff Bezos, for fixing Alexa. We'll cross bridges. We'll touch on this once it's out. We'll get one. We'll test it. We'll hear what people are saying. Let's move on for now, though, because the AI wars are rumbling on. As always, it's not just Meta versus Google. It's bigger. It's America versus China and the UK. And China is, I guess, trying to take on America in the chip game, which is huge. I mean, the world's biggest business is a chip maker.
Yeah, exactly that. NVIDIA, we've talked about them before, becoming increasingly difficult, we thought, for China to compete, but it's not the sense. They are doubling down, investing really heavily in robotics, chip manufacturing, to reduce this reliance really on US companies like NVIDIA, in exactly the same way as Trump is getting US companies to reduce their reliances on the likes of Huawei, Tencent, Alibaba, all of these Chinese companies. So I mean, this is going to be interesting. We referenced before DeepSeek. Now that's not hardware. That's another AI that came out of nowhere and was able to do for free a bunch of the stuff that the American AIs could do just overnight, caught them by complete surprise. So, there's no kind of predicting some of this stuff. It will push American companies like Nvidia to sort of build faster, quicker, cheaper, bigger. Probably the consumers are the winners in this because the AI works better, is kind of more seamless. So yeah, consumers the real winner here. Chips that are faster, better at delivering our AI for us. How wonderful.
Do you know the real winner in the world of AI?
Go on.
Elon bleeding Musk.
Oh!
He's become the world's first half-trillionaire. Is that a thing?
Well, sound a bit more excited for him then.
I'm not excited for Elon Musk. What have I got to be excited about?
A net worth of over $500 billion.
Isn't that the right $500 trillionaire? It says here. That's not a thing, is it?
Well, it's decent. He's the first one. So
I get it, but it's like first person to be worth over $500 billion, not first $500 trillionaire.
Did you read what he's going to get from Tesla? So the Tesla board have said. They've outlined a potential $1 trillion pay package if he meets all of the targets.
Ridiculous.
So he's got to sell millions of cars, AI robots, which we might talk about later on, which is a terrifying video of some of these AI robots. But yeah, well done, E.
Well, E.
L.
Moving on. So Deloitte, they're like a big management consultancy type thing, right? Why have they had to pay back a load of money to the Australian government?
Well, it's a partial refund because they've admitted using Gen AI to produce a massive report which cost close to $500,000, and there were loads of factual and reference errors in there which were spotted. They've said, hands up, used AI for it, we shouldn't. Here's a bit of a partial refund.
So it's like using AI to do your homework.
Well, basically, I mean, Deloitte are, as we've talked about, some of these other big consultancies as well. I mean, they're big bucks because they're helping businesses solve these big, knotty strategic problems, and they're full of really big brains. The best grads from the best universities go and they attract them. They work really, really long hours to come up with these things. Turns out they're cutting corners and using AI. Tut, tut.
That's shocking, isn't it? Dearie me. Have you ever been caught out by using AI, a bit of chat or whatever?
This is such a loaded question because I just feel like I'm obviously going to say no.
No?
And I feel like you've got something.
No, but I mean, I've just seen some of your like LinkedIn posts. I've seen some of
my LinkedIn.
I've seen some of the scripts you've done sometimes for this show, and I'm like, did you use ChatGPT?
I think I must use ChatGPT for most things, but as a sort of inspiration, a sort of bounce off ideas. What am I missing is the thing I always ask ChatGPT. Put something in. What am I missing?
Like, have you got a bit of an example for that?
Wish I did. Ask
ChatGPT, it might know.
I was asking about some sort of creating some new idea. I had some new ideas, some brainstorming things. Thought I had it all cracked. Like, what am I missing? Like, if you were like the evil twin of this thing I'm trying to create, how would you take it down? So when you work out the weaknesses, you can kind of plug it in. Yeah.
That's villainous.
Marcos Angelidis gave me that top tip.
Oh, he was good, wasn't he? Real AI expert,
Well done.
which is
Well
sadly missing in this episode.
Brilliant.
Right, let's move on to Mr. Beast, the world's biggest influencer, YouTuber, whatever you want to call him. A man who I guess has single-handedly sucked millions of pounds away from traditional media platforms. He wants some sympathy because he's saying it's scary times for creators.
Yeah, I mean, he was referencing actually Sora, which is the latest from OpenAI. So it's video creation. It's got its second version. It is producing some mad stuff. If you've seen it. But so good.
When you say mad stuff, what? I have not seen it.
The two most interesting things I saw. One, it was Martin Luther King versus JFK in a kind of like DAZN boxing thing, but it was like shot as if they were getting all the backstage, like the sort of Eubank coming out of his car, and then they had this fight, really realistic.
Is this the thing that's making all the Stephen Hawking WWE?
Yeah, where he's on the skate.
I saw Bruce Forsyth on WWE. This is where it's coming from.
This is the new Sora thing.
Pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah. Anyway, Jimmy Donaldson, aka Mr. Beast, he is...
Is that his name?
Jimmy.
Jimmy Donaldson.
Great name. Probably James. Call himself Jim. I could be a Jimmy. Maybe I should rebrand to Jimmy.
Well, they
Jimmy
do
on
call
the
you
pod.
They do call you Master Beast, actually.
Jimmy
Yeah.
on the pod. Anyway, he is thinking about all these tools and going, actually, this can do a lot of the stuff that I do. And, I know he may have taken money from digital, but, he's got his craft. He's good at what he does.
he is, yeah.
He's got human editors that are making these things. Experts are saying creators who effectively use AI are going to benefit in the short term. But what you can't replace is, the community, the trust, the authenticity that creators like Mr. Beast have built. You can't really shortcut that even with AI.
Interesting. I agree on most notes.
10 out of 10 no
Yeah,
notes.
not 10 out of 10.
Did you meet Taylor Swift this week? I meant to ask you at the top of the show.
Did I what?
Meet Taylor Swift this week.
So Taylor Swift, she was on some of our radio stations.
Yeah. You sit in this chair.
No, I mean, Taylor had no interest in AI having a clue games, which is shocking. I know.
That's the booking that really slipped through our fingers.
It did.
It was that-
Fleur on Hits Breakfast got Guano Magic, not us.
It's that blimmin' rip-off we did, isn't it?
It is. It's that AI clone voice that we used. I knew she wouldn't like it. What do you reckon Taylor makes of AI? Because I reckon she is not a fan.
Well, I think she's all over it. So I was talking...
You think she is a fan?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think she's on it in terms of sort of copywriting and protections and stuff like that. Like tools that I've used where I'm asking it to, write a song in the style of Taylor Swift. Any mention of Taylor Swift, error message, can't be using Taylor. She's got this stuff on lockdown.
Oh, she's a pro.
She's 3D chess. She's about 14 steps ahead of everyone on this stuff.
Taylor knows what's going on.
Yeah.
We're big fans.
Don't know if you can tell.
Have you enjoyed the new album?
It's a grower.
It's growing on me. I like it. Anyway, we shall move on now to we could talk about Taylor Swift some more.
Maybe we should.
I can just see the people turning off the podcast.
Stay with us, there's a good guest coming.
AI generated TV presenters sounds scary. I think it's scary, but it's a thing now.
Yeah, I think it's a bit like this sort of inception point AI. I remember the podcast company who talked about it just going to produce all of this
AI slopness.
AI slop.
What did Jack Benjamin say last? The sloppening.
Sloppification of sloppening. Yeah, I don't know. This feels a bit like that. Music channel Roxy, they're going to launch an interactive TV music channel with AI generated virtual presenters. Maybe that's all right actually, because I sort of remember used to watch MTV back in the day. I mean, you don't need a lot to be able to do that kind of thing.
I tell you what's interesting is it's not replacing a human job, because I don't know if you've ever been in the last few years clicked onto a music channel. Not many people have. They don't have presenters anymore. Most shows don't, at least. It's just back-to-back music videos. So actually, I'm not a fan of this, but it isn't replacing a human for now.
Yeah. I like the AI DJ on Spotify, if you've listened to that. Like, it's
No,
kind of...
I have not.
It's light touch. The tech pieces it together. He kind of comes in, real guy apparently as well. He kind of interjects that's not replacing it. It's creating something new. I think I'm kind of all right with this. The CEO, Rob Lewis, he said that AI presenters allow creative, cost-effective setups, and use the example of introducing Beyonce from a yacht without the live production. I mean, that's a killer example if ever I heard
Sorry,
one.
has he put an example into ChatGPT and that's what it's given him? Introducing Beyonce from a yacht.
I don't know the significance of Beyonce and yachts.
Weird. Okay. Yeah. I mean, there is a lot going on, isn't there, in the media space when it comes to sort of AI replacements. What's the whole thing with this AI actor?
Tilly Norwood.
Yeah, what I've heard a bit about Tilly, but what's the deal there?
She's a AI actor, and Hollywood are not very happy about this.
What do you mean an AI actor?
Well, she's AI. You've just seen these AI influencers, AI creators. She's an AI actor.
So you might stick Tilly in like a Michael Bay film. Like Tilly might be the lead in the next Transformers or something.
Totally. So obviously, SAG-AFTRA, who are the union, are up in arms. This is all just going back to the chat that we've had about voiceovers. But this feels like it's going a step further. This is endangering actors' livelihood. Emily Blunt quite outspoken about it. But whatever kind of bit of it you look at, Dua Lipa, Elton John, voiceover artists, now actors, this sort of sense that it could do what they could do is sort of creeping in around the edges. But yeah, Tilly Norwood, look her up.
Okay, I will do. Right.
You seem utterly enthused by it.
I think it's horrible. I can't stand the thought of going to the cinema and watching an AI actor.
How would you know? What if you didn't know?
I think that's even sadder.
But what if you came away thinking it was an outstanding Oscar-worthy performance, and then someone said, "Oh, she was AI"? Would it change how you thought about the film? Would it change that you were in floods of tears and emotional wreck at the end of it because of her stunning performance?
It's a good question. It's like if there was an AI banger of a pop song and I'm like dancing away and someone
I
tells
sent
me
you
it's
one
AI.
last week. I haven't a clue that I created with about 3 lyrics.
Word.
You didn't
Did
like
anyone
that?
listen to that?
Yeah.
It was shocking.
I thought it was just like
I was
Paramore or something.
relieved.
Hayley Williams.
When I heard it, I was relieved that it was awful. Should we have a little listen?
Yeah, I thought it was good.
So our very talented producer David has just made a very good point. Do you ever get sad by the start of Up? I see what you're doing there, but look, I think the difference is...
Explain.
Well, it's an animated movie.
Right.
It's not a
the
real
balloon,
human.
the
It's
man on the-
it's
yeah.
like. Are you sad when Andy says goodbye to
Great
Woody?
point.
It is a good point.
The voice of reason.
I mean, I suppose it goes back to application with human creativity.
Yeah.
So Pixar is a great example of they've used technology as a tool to tell an amazing story with humanity at its heart.
Yeah.
Told by humans, created by humans. It's incredible. Yes, I do cry a lot and I love it. But this Tilly person, like, you're not, I mean, how is a human pulling the strings behind the scenes to make her performance? I don't understand.
The
Like,
humans got to input. It's like putting a model in Vogue. It doesn't just happen.
well, you say that, but it's like
Input to do
I
it.
could get ChatGPT to write me a short story just from a prompt. There's no creativity in that. There's no
Well, I think
humanity in
there's-
that.
I don't think there's creativity in there. Anyway, all I want to say is I'm struggling on the AI challenge, but I think I just got a couple of points. Me and Dave got a couple of points on you there. Not bad.
You don't get any
Come in.
You don't get any points
Dave
for
can
that.
come more often.
We could be here all day. We're not going to agree on this. Let's move on, James, to your big thing. What's going on? What have you got to tell us?
Well, my big thing was, it's kind of newsworthy, but we've touched on it with a couple of guests. We touched on it with Jack last week, actually. It looks increasingly likely that OpenAI, ChatGPT, is heading towards some sort of ad model.
Yeah.
There's a memo that kind of not been leaked, but someone says they've seen, which has been sent by Sam Altman, saying that, the next phase for their growth is going to be around ads. They're hiring a bunch of different people. They're rumored to have hired a couple of people from Meta who helped set up their ads business in the early days.
Maybe they've spoken to friends of the show, Tony.
They might have spoken to
should, he's great.
Tony Evans, and they might have. That's kind of interesting. They're effectively like a $10 billion company at the moment. They have ambitions to be a $100+ billion company. The only way you're going to do that is ads. You're just not going to do it through subscriptions because you're going to top out at some point.
Question: You're an advertising man.
Bad guy.
You've been in advertising. Well, you've been in the digital side of advertising. Would you go and work for them? Is that something that you think is an interesting proposition as a media advertising guru?
I think you would have. I think you have some people, like I know people in the industry who are kind of drawn to that new thing. They were probably there in mobile and they sort of got on with mobile. And then, it could be retail media now. It could be creators. It could be, whatever. But some people are kind of drawn to those new opportunities when they come out. And as the AI ad model starts to present itself, I've no doubt there'll be people that jump on that.
Sam Altman wouldn't hire you though. You're too closely tied to me now.
Do that.
You're too closely tied to me.
Sam
Sam would be like, you've spent far too long with that guy who's just talks a load of crap about me. Sorry.
Here's the long, exhaustive list of awful things you said about me.
You're not getting the job.
And you've given Elon far too much airtime.
Yeah, his arch nemesis. Very interesting though, and you touched on Elon, but we've said it before, we said it again. That's why they fell out, because Elon did not want this to be an advertising model. Sam Altman clearly had other plans.
Exactly that.
As ever, James, an evolving story.
It always is.
It always is, which is good because we're back next week with another episode. Right, this is the point in the podcast where before we hear this week's AI question, I would just say if you haven't hated what you've heard so far, like if it's not been unbearably awful, fair dues. If you don't and you fancy, I don't know, subscribing if you're not already, rating, reviewing.
Love a review.
Only if it's positive, right?
Yeah.
get out of
You
town.
could use AI to do it, maybe.
Yeah,
We'd love
sure.
it to come from heart. We'd love the humanity in it, but frankly...
Yeah, prompt it, whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
We would appreciate it. That's all we're saying. Every little helps, and tell your friends and family about AI. Haven't a clue. Right. If you have a question, this is the part of the show where we want to hear it. James, every week, is tasked with a big listener question. And ideally, it's a tough, challenging question that makes James sweat when he reads it and has to try and answer it. And the best part is you could catch James's sweat and it could trickle down and it could land in our AI Haven't a Clue mug, which would be yours.
Yes,
It would be yours.
We
if
still
you
don't
get
have
your
mugs.
question asked.
Who's sorting us mugs?
I've told you already. You're enough of a mug, James. You don't need another one. This week's mug winner, congratulations, Lana. Lana asked this. AI is very audio and text-based right now, but might it become more physical soon?
Yeah, I would say now. I think we don't have to sort of wait any time. So if you think about, all the things that it can do, it can listen, it can write, it can talk, it can do all that audio visual stuff you're talking about. But, smart glasses, your favourite, is a classic example of AI going into there, kind of like an assistant type thing. Could be hearables, could be other kind of assistants that may be about your person rather than on your phone. Humanoid robots.
Yeah, what's going on with the robots?
Which you might do full body eye roll at. I mean, the biggest one of this, I don't know if you've seen it, Tesla's Optimus robot. He's called his robot.
Why is he called it a Transformer name?
Yeah.
Ridiculous!
I mean, that's pretty incredible. That can pick up eggs without crushing them. It can dance like really, really well. It can do...
Better than you.
It can move. Fold laundry, walk smoothly, all that sort of stuff. So,
are they on sale? Can you buy one?
You can't buy one yet. No, I mean you can only just buy one of the Cybertruck things. But this is the future of what we're going to see. And then you've got sort of AI things about your person, prosthetics.
Sorry, could we just take one step back? So basically, you're saying in a matter of years, you can buy an AI slave.
I don't know about a time period on it, but yeah, there'll come a point where you probably go, it feels a little bit Black Mirror.
It's awful.
But what if it could do, what if you lost the ability, what if your arthritic hands couldn't do something anymore and you could just get a robot to do it? Or you don't want to fold your own laundry.
Yeah.
Get a robot in to do it. There's loads of stuff robots could do.
Do you think it would join you at the dinner table and have a chat?
If you live alone, it could be a massive cure to loneliness. I mean, I am going into the sort of Charlie Brooker, slightly Black Mirror interpretation of that. I think that's why those things are so brilliant. But yeah, possibly. But yeah, I think robots, I think you've got sort of smart glasses and wearables. That's all going to be kind of quite physical. So yeah, I think we're probably already there. We're probably not waiting for it, Lana. It is here.
I'm not sure that I do completely agree with you in the sense that, I don't know how. I think Lana's coming from the point of the robots, right? And I know what you mean. Yes, there is a prototype out there somewhere, but it's not. There's not like for Christmas we can head on to Amazon and buy ourselves an AI robot to come and cook for us.
Have you ever been to a restaurant where the robot delivers your food? That little thing that skirts around.
I mean, I've been to Yo Sushi.
It's not like the cheese conveyor belt, whatever it is. But the robot knows where you are. It's kind of aware. Yeah, that's now when you go to restaurants.
You've been to a restaurant, a robot served you?
Las Iguanas at Centre Parks. So
stop.
Yeah?
Stop recording. Las Iguanas at Centre Parks has a robot robot server.
I mean, go that just for that. Yeah. A person comes and takes.
Can someone verify? Can someone verify this is the case?
I've been there.
You got served your sizzling fajitas by a robot in Las Iguanas.
Yeah, incredible.
I'm looking at a video of this.
You seen it?
Yeah, there he is.
Yeah.
Wow. I have never wanted to go to a Las Iguanas as much in my life.
That's the team Christmas party.
Sorted.
Centre Parks.
Yeah.
Good question.
Really good question, Lana. Thank you. Good answer as well, James. Thanks for that. If, like Lana, you fancy having a brew out of your AI having a clue,
we need stings.
We should put that slogan on a mug. Why not ask us your question? Get in touch on email aihaventaclue@gmail.com. Also, James and I are going to be at the Future of Media in London. Day 2, we're going to be there. We're going to be doing a live half an hour edition of the podcast. If you fancy coming along, it'd be lovely to see you there. If you've got a question, if you want to take part in the live edition, if you are going, we really would love to hear from you. Much like when you are asking a question, the contact address is aihaventaclue@gmail.com. You can also find us on socials. Chat to us there.
Imagine if we had mugs for that. That'd be brilliant, wouldn't it?
Do you know what? This is a bit of an exclusive. Do you know what I'm trying to sort out for that event?
Here we go.
AI Haven't a Clue t-shirts.
Brilliant.
Would you wear one? If I get you one, will
Depends
you wear
what's
it?
on the front. And if I have a say in it.
Here's my vision.
Mm-hmm.
I heart chat.
I'd
That's
wear
the
it.
vision.
Yeah,
You gonna wear it?
I'd wear it, yeah.
We got that on record? Okay.
I'd wear it.
So what more would you want from a half an hour at the Future of Media conference in James wearing I Heart Chat? Also, if you are organising an event, do get in touch with us because we would very happily have a chat with you about doing our live podcast at your event.
You could do Donald Trump as well if it really all goes to...
I think we want to be booked, James, for these things. I don't think that's going to help with our bookings.
It's just, you know.
It's a thought. Right, let's move on now because we have a fantastic guest joining us. William Bowes is the General Counsel at YouGov. He's a big deal and he's been working in the AI legal space for a really long time now. He has a real focus on copyright in AI and he spent years at publishers as well as, of course, his new role at YouGov in the more research space. And we're going to be picking William's brain all about how he is shaping the conversation on how AI can thrive without leaving human creators behind. William, it's so lovely having you on. Thank you for joining us. And James and I are very excited because you've kind of been in the world of AI longer than a lot of people have. So I guess to start, could you just tell us a little bit about your background with AI in your working world and kind of how it's become increasingly incorporated into what you do?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks guys for inviting me to be here. It's great to be here. So I'm a copyright lawyer and IP lawyer, and I've been a general counsel in media businesses for 15 years now. And my first general counsel job was at Cambridge University Press, which is the world's oldest publisher, founded in 1534 by Henry VIII. And when I found myself there, just around a time where academic research was really changing, and they were doing lots of different types of research. So we would publish books and journals, and instead of people just buying a book or a magazine on a shelf, they were starting to run all sorts of searches on our content and looking for patterns and trends in the data. And that was text and data mining. And so we were having to come up with new business models and how can we allow this to happen and what should the price be? How do we stop our platforms and our systems falling over? All these challenges around using content in a radically different way. And of course, a lot of these researchers were non-for-profit. They were like, we should be able to do this for free. There are lots of exceptions in UK copyright law to say research, it can sometimes be free. And we were saying, well, not really, because this is going to create loads more costs for us and you're using it in a completely exponentially different way. So way before AI became the thing that we think of now in terms of its big prevalence in the consumer space, academic researchers were using similar technologies to research and use content in a radically different way. And they would look for trends in data, whether those be trying to find out pure science like codes, DNA, for example, or whether, for example, looking through big sets of English language journals to track the use of words over 300 years, because we had like 500 years of content. So they'd be using this in a very different way. And we had to come up with new business models, new contracts, new laws, and think in a very new way. And that also led us to work with the UK government at the time to have a new exception around text and data mining in UK copyright law for these non-profit research services, which worked. We found a business model, a lot of open access publishing now in that space. Everyone was happy. We kind of moved on and thought that was that. Fast forward a few years, I was working as a director of the UK Publishers Association and also the Federation of European Publishers in Brussels, new European law around text and data mining, and they were looking at bringing it into European law, replicating the UK law, but then going further with a potential commercial exception. Those of us in academic publishing were trying to warn people that this doesn't really work in a commercial context. Have you really thought about this? But at that time, and this is sort of post-Brexit, 2016, 2017, no one really saw that there was that big a threat or that big an issue. We managed to get sort of the opt-out concept in there that people could say no, but people didn't really pick up on it. At the time, they were very much worried about other parts of that legislation around making sure that big tech companies were forced to pay for the content. This kind of got in a bit under the radar, and those of us in the academic space were thinking not so sure about this, but it got through. Shortly after that, I then was appointed General Counsel of Condé Nast over in New York, and so I moved very much into the consumer space, out of academic publishing, away from books and journals and the Europe and the UK scene. And then, of course, as we all know, 2 or 3 years ago, things began to change in AI. ChatGPT comes along, and suddenly everyone's like, "Crikey, what's this?" And then, to my concern, text and data mining, that's the solution. This will be the legal solution. This will be the, really, do you really understand how this all works? You've got to rethink your supply chain, your business model, everything. And the law just wasn't working. It wasn't being implemented properly. And that combined with fair use in the US, which we can talk a bit more about, was a real problem. So that was the law was designed around originally. But what it got reinterpreted from a commercial AI perspective was to say, actually, we can text and data mine the entire internet. We can process large tranches of data across all consumer open websites. We'll just look at everything, and we'll find. And that's how large language models, as you know, are built. Like they look for trends in data and patterns and predictable and repeating patterns and uses. From a technical perspective, it is a similar activity they're doing. But the law had a very specific public purpose originally, which was to say, actually, in UK copyright law, you have exceptions for teaching and learning, and teachers can photocopy pages. And it was an analogy to that. What it wasn't supposed to be was an open door for the whole internet. So what I call mass TDM versus academic TDM, the mass TDM concept just doesn't work yet. The EU haven't made it work. And it's created real uncertainty for everyone. And American companies used to working in a fair use model where they have much more flexibility, have tried to interpret the European law and then tried to get the UK to bring in the same law, as we know from earlier in the year. And that's created the controversy that we've found in recent times.
Tell me a bit about Condé Nast. I mean, incredible publisher, big legacy, huge, beautiful building which I'm sure you frequented.
James, brands that's Vogue, right? And
Vogue, Vanity Fair, the New Yorker,
huge.
Some of the editors will forgive me for not referencing it. Maybe they won't. But yeah, some amazing brands, some amazing people, some of the world's best journalists, amazing place to work, and a really, really successful business and some really great people. It was a great, fascinating place to be.
And what was the sort of temperature around AI? And I mean, they would have gone through lots of digital transformation, disruption, and kind of AI comes along. Yeah,
so we really wanted, when this first came along, our real focus was around what are our values and what is our value. And so from a values perspective, we really believe in journalistic integrity, high quality content, the creativity, the artistry in putting together some of those publications. And what we did was just so really, really important. And so the notion that could be replicated by a non-human was something we were very keen to kind of preserve against. And then the value to our readers. And we're trying to show, the latest ideas, the latest trends, the latest insights. Some of our editors were, they were the original influencers, and so really like trying to replicate that and predict or copy that wasn't something that we felt was core to the value that our subscribers and our readers really, really represented. So yes, as with all these publishers, we've been through several digital transitions, but this one felt different, both in terms of the threat, but also the fact that it was changing the concept of who was doing the creating. And that was something that we felt very concerned about. So we put out a set of AI principles. We wanted to communicate to the world what we believed and what we stood for, and lots of people internally wanting to experiment with different things. So there was a practical operational challenge. But we also, the way I thought about it was something I called the 3 Ls. So lobbying, licensing, and litigation. So for me as general counsel, from a legal perspective, what is our lobbying approach? How do we lobby effectively in DC and in London and in Brussels and elsewhere in the world? And so our CEO went and testified in Congress and spoke with US politicians. And then I met with Lucy Fraser, who was Secretary of State at the DCMS at that time. And then also from a litigation perspective, yes, this was a legal threat. We believed that people were stealing our content and were doing something that could infringe copyright law in the UK, in the US, in Europe, everywhere. And so where there were cases we thought we should look at that. When I was there, the New York Times obviously sued OpenAI, and so that was going on. But also we were looking for licensing opportunities as well. And so where there's a commercial business, a commercial deal to be done, let's look at that and let's do that. And not long before I left Condé a year ago, we did complete a licensing deal with OpenAI and managed to find a way of working with them.
What does that look like? How do you go about working with OpenAI? What was the deal like?
Well, so there's only so much I could
tell us all.
The deal is, the existence of the deals in the public domain. Other publishers, Axel Springer and others, have done these kinds of deals. But it's a licensing content deal. It's a content distribution deal, as we've done many times before. They take a license to use for certain purposes and to train their LLMs and various other kinds of purposes. And then you have a fee and a payment and that works. But what concerns me, lots of things about this concern me, but one is that it's possible for big tech to do deals with big content.
Yeah.
But what I'm really passionate and interested about is, where's the little creator in all of this? How do they get a deal? If for some unknown reason, I wanted to license an article I wrote about this, how would they know where to find me? Yeah. Where does that transaction take place? And what you're finding is big companies trading off risk and doing deals and for large volumes of stuff. But actually to have a sustainable marketplace in AI, we need everyone to be able to take part in that.
Yeah.
And that's what's hard to work.
In terms of the bigger player deals, do you, in your opinion, would you now say that the big media players who are getting a fair deal, or is it very much a case of it's better than nothing?
Well, I've only seen one. But it's hard to say because we don't know what the size of this market's going to be. No one knows yet to what extent AI will replace publishers. We know to a large extent, searchers replace publishers if you go back 25 years or so. So you can predict and extrapolate and be concerned that might be the case. But we don't really know. And so there isn't an established sort of rate or price in the market. We don't know what the future of the content industry will look like in it. So, but some publishers are doing deals, some are not. Some have done some with a few players, but not others. All the tech companies are also trying to figure out their own strategy. Should they just hide behind fair use and litigate this out and wait 10 years and see where those cases go? I think that fair use system has become a copyright casino now. You're seeing the case with Anthropic recently where I'm delighted for those authors that they're going to get a payout, but you can't create a sustainable marketplace on that degree of unpredictability. Like, people need to know what the market looks like and how much you should pay if you're going to create a sustainable marketplace for content. You can't be waiting years for litigation and a particular technology company to decide to settle something and try and find it out. The US fair use system really is not suitable, I don't think, for creating the kind of market that ultimately this industry needs.
I love your point on the sort of the smaller, the creators, perhaps, established journalists that have worked and written for big publications who have left now and, Substack and subscribers is their income.
Yeah.
That's probably where the concern is, the Bowers and the Condé Nasts and, all of the big publishers, we'll probably go and strike deals. But, those Substackers and that's their living now, it's a bit tougher.
It is tougher for them. And it's not good for society because, free speech needs a free market. You can't have free speech if you have free content. And if you want to have free speech, you need to protect it. You need to respect each other's rights as well. Yeah. That's the basis. And copyright was the beginning of free speech in this country. Before 1709, when the UK had a Copyright Act, its first Copyright Act, there was no free speech in the UK. The king owned all the content and controlled who published what. And I worked for a publisher that was set up by King Henry VIII, so I could see that quite explicitly. So, and if you James Marriott wrote a great article recently talking about this post-literate society, the Times columnist, and he talks about how in the first decade of the 18th century, there were only 6,000 books published, and by the last, there were 56,000. That first century of copyright completely transformed the marketplace for content and books. So that was really important, but and really changed. So copyright is essential to free speech, a free press, a free market. We don't have the First Amendment in this country. What we have is copyright. And the same people who are coming to this country and saying we have a free speech problem are also lobbying against our copyright, which is the one thing that underpins it that we have. They don't understand that, but it is. So coming to your question, the UK government recently proposed something called a creative content exchange. And I'm really interested by this concept. I don't understand, and when I asked the government, no one can really explain to me how that relates to their position on the opt-out. But they've said they're going to put money behind setting up this creative content exchange where you can have a digital meeting between AI providers and creators, and you can place content on market, and there can be a digital transaction. On each transaction, I'm sure, tiny value, but there will be, the government saying it wants to provide a space where these transactions can happen. Now, of course, we have had this problem before in the 20th century where we had photocopying, and we set up a system of collective licensing whereby there were these agencies that would collect micropayments for small uses. And every publisher, including Bauer, will get a check each year for how much they get on their collective license. Not much money, doesn't make or break your year, but it's a small amount. I think what we need is a 21st century system of collective licensing. And your last podcast was talking about what do we do? How do we create this market? And that to me is the answer. We need to completely overhaul the system of collective licensing. Make that digital. How would we reinvent that system instead of it being photocopies and libraries and radios and cafes? Those are still uses, but they're not the main market now. What we need is that. And unless the government makes people respect copyright and says to tech companies, you have to pay, but here's a place where you can transact, they won't have any incentive to engage in that market. And what you'll continue to have is big content and big tech do deals where it suits them for legal or commercial reasons, risk management reasons. And then everyone else will be left behind and it'll become a free-for-all. And we're already seeing, if you see the issues, I think America's an amazing place. I've spent a lot of my life there and I love the people there. I love the business culture there. And it's such a wonderful country. But their fair use copyright system is responsible for two things. Firstly, it's responsible for their amazing technology sector because it's created this risk managed space where they can take content and create social media companies and search engines and now AI companies. But what it's also done is completely reduced the quality of content and information in US society. And so now you have the issues that you have in the US with democracy and polarization and all of those issues, I'm sure are linked to the fact that they have a system, they do not have an ecosystem for sustainable high quality content management. Copyright's not just about who gets paid, but it's also a system that society has for the management and production of high quality content and information. We created that in this country. We've exported it around the world. It created the Enlightenment in the UK, and this has sustained the UK as a place of high quality content, knowledge, learning, and research for 300 years. The US has been more skeptical about that. It's created great tech businesses, but it's now got a real problem in terms of the quality and authenticity of its content and information. And I think these things are inextricably linked. And our government needs to recognize that one of its primary duties over the next 10 years needs to be to maintain the infrastructure of high quality content and information if this country is to maintain its economy and its democracy.
How do you think that might look like, and what do you think that might look like in practice?
Well, I think this copyright exchange is an interesting idea because so what's the government's proposal there? Like, how much money is it going to put into this? Is it going to try and involve itself in price setting, which is impossible for companies to do for competitional reasons? Is it going to provide technology infrastructure? Is it going to try and make this a key part of some of its trade agreement negotiations and try and make it an international thing? Is it going to stand up and say, we are a high quality content information society? We're never going to have a big open AI in London, but what we are going to have is really sustain the high quality, niche sector specialists. We're going to maintain our academic publishers, our financial specialist publishers, our medical publishers. Like, we're going to be a place where niche, high quality AI systems can grow because we're going to maintain an environment, a regulatory environment where people get paid and high quality information is valued. That could be something that we could do. And so it's not anti-AI. I'm no defender of any particular business model or company, but I think for society and the economy and democracy, you need high quality content information, particularly in this country. I think it's a really key imperative of ours. So I think if you have a strong copyright system, you can enable an AI sector that looks a bit like that rather than just supporting OpenAI. And so you can become a place where the world's great creators want to be, because this is a great regulatory environment to be a creator, because you can get paid and you can be in a high quality, high knowledge kind of sector. And I'm really interested in this idea that they have around a digital content exchange. Can that be something that then can mean that smaller artists and smaller authors and smaller journalists and smaller creators can still make some money, whether or not it makes a full salary of a journalist used to be, I don't know. But at least it would provide a space, and you can link that into the law, and you can say, well, okay, there may or may not be an opt-out, but actually you can't avail yourself of an opt-out and a free use if you haven't come to the market to look for this first. If stuff's placed on that market, then it's been put onto a commercial market, and you should have to pay to use that. And so it's both hand.
And the genie isn't out of the bottle now when it comes to this sort of thing. You think obviously a lot has been done over the last few years, but we can still get to a system.
I know there are a lot of people who say that, and there are a lot of lawyers who say that, and there are lots of people I speak to in the legal space who think this is just you just sort of this just won't happen. It's too late. But I don't think that's the right. We've got a long way to go. We're at the beginning of a very long story.
So true. So true.
And I think we have longevity and history in this country, and we look at things over a very long period of time. We've got there's a long way to go in all of this. And this skirmish around paying for training data, that's just one part. We've then got to create it as a sustainable IP and rights system for the future of it. And all the AI companies, they all want rights and protections for what they put out. They just don't want to pay for what they got in. It's extraordinary to me that they can lobby to say that they'll pay their electricity bills, they'll pay their rent, they'll pay their landlords, they'll pay their lawyers, they'll pay their lobbyists, they'll pay their staff, but they won't pay for their raw materials. Like, where is the equity, the logic? I get the commercial rationale. I don't criticize them commercially for adopting that position, because why not if you can get away without paying for it? But it needs a government to recognize that this is not just about whether you pay Elton John or Sam Altman. That's a question. But it's also about what we as a society need in terms of high quality content literacy. And I think if people want to come to this country and they want to make money out of the UK government signing MOUs and contracts to buy all these services, there are any number of levers they can pull to say, but this is what we believe here. This is our information ecosystem. This is our high quality. And I don't think if the US tech industry is so capable of creating something as clever as AI, you honestly tell me they can't create an online rights exchange. It's really not that difficult. It's not technically difficult. It's politically hard to achieve. Yeah. And it would be very disruptive, a very different kind of digital ecosystem than we've had. But I don't think if you believe in this kind of stuff, I don't think it's far too early to give up.
Yeah.
There's many more chapters of this story still to come. But what is important is that our politicians recognize this is a wider policy question that isn't just about a B2B conversation between two sectors to happen in the business department. They don't recognize when they're talking about online harms, online safety, all these other kinds of things, or free speech. They should be saying, but for us, that's copyright. That's how free speech got coded in this country for the first time. And we need to protect and defend that.
You talked about Jack Benjamin, who we had on the last episode. Jack was talking about, this idea that is there leverage in if you could get every publisher come together and effectively shut the door, talking about search, shut the door on AI, LLMs.
So when you hear that as a lawyer, you get incredibly squeamish. Some massive antitrust red flags going off in my mind. And indeed, publishers did that about 15 years ago. So a bunch of book publishers had a conversation around how to deal with Amazon's pricing for ebooks and got caught in a massive antitrust investigation, and a lot of them got fined. So that you can't get together in that kind of a way, and no one can sensibly do that. But a government could say the marketplace for copyright for content isn't working.
Yeah,
we need to have a conversation about how we create a different kind of marketplace. But you can't, as a bunch of publishers, and no one should and could. And if any of them are doing that, they'd be well advised to stop doing that. That just isn't. I understand what he was saying.
Yeah.
But that isn't a route to a solution. But his other solution of, well, is someone ever going to enforce copyright? That is a solution.
Yeah.
Because they don't pay because they think that they'll be able to find a lawyer or a lobbyist who will get them out of having to pay.
Yeah. You touched upon that case that we discussed in the show a little while back, where Anthropic. And it looked like, I don't know, I'm not sure, I don't think the decision was completely confirmed by the judge.
The judge has approved the settlement. I think there's still a bit to go on it, but it's still moving forward and looking positive.
And if that happens, if publishers are paid a huge payout for things that Anthropic are deemed to have unfairly taken,
yes.
I mean, with your lawyer hat on, that must surely potentially open the floodgates
Well, it definitely rings an alarm bell and makes you worry. But you would, if I was working for an AI company and I read that case, I'd say this is obviously concerning. But the judge placed a lot of emphasis there on the source of where they got their content from. So they'd basically taken one of the illegal shadow libraries and said, well, in the US, you have this concept of transformative use. Basically, if the use you make of the copyright is so wonderful for society, that's why it's so good for their tech industry, then that outweighs the value, and therefore you can generally use.
Know that.
There's 4 tests. It's a bit more balanced on that, and I know this is not a legal podcast, so I won't go into too much of the detail. But that's how the US law is different from the UK. There's no fair use in the UK. There's no transformative use concept. That's the big difference between UK and US law. That's why the US companies, when they come over here and they talk to them, say, well, you should have a fair use system. Well, we don't. And you've asked for that every 5 years for the last 20 years, and the government always says no. So what you'd say is the judge in that case is saying it is transformative, it's amazing, but actually the source you took it from was just an illegal, pirated source, and that was wrong, and therefore they deserve compensation. So what you'd be saying as a lawyer in that case is, well, where are we getting our training data from? Because if you've gone to one of these shadow libraries and stolen millions of books, then we've got a problem. But actually, there is still hope for us as an AI company on fair use, because the judge is saying that it's so transformative, and that actually that might, in certain circumstances, be justified. So yes, you're worried, and you're definitely more worried than you were 6 months ago. But you're far from thinking, "Oh crikey, let's better negotiate and start clearing some licenses." And there's a political, I haven't heard this directly myself, but there have been suggestions that the US government would just legislate if the courts found copyright did apply in this context, because Trump sees this as the US versus China.
He does.
Yeah. He doesn't want to allow anything to get in the way of the US tech companies' progress in that very political way. So there's a suggestion that he would just legislate to say, forget it, if that did happen. But then, of course, what I would say to that is, well, then the US is in breach of its international treaty obligations under the Berne Convention. And you may say, well, if he's going to leave the Paris Climate Accord, what does he care about the Berne Convention? He may not, but Disney would, because that's what enables them to stop all their piracy all around the world for all their movies. So it's not as
it's complex.
There's a lot of angles that I think politically they'd have to go through if these things happen. So it's definitely not all over. It's great news for creators, and well done on those authors who did that. But it's not a complete slam dunk win.
We got as far as Condé Nast. It would be remiss of us if we didn't talk about your current role at YouGov.
YouGov, yeah.
I mean, away from the sort of different type of consumer side, I suppose you're sort of polling the nation on how they're feeling about things, particularly on AI. How are we as a nation feeling about AI?
I feel like I might have a guess about how we're feeling. I think we're feeling all a bit worried and a bit like, what's going on? And I'm confused and I don't really like it that much. But correct me if I'm wrong.
What about the rest of the country?
Well, we did do an interesting poll I saw the other day on this was we basically polled people all across the world. We have this panel of 28 million people who we poll our surveys, and we said, what do you think about all these topics? And we did, do you trust human content more than AI content? And the UK came out 70% saying human content more than AI generated content, which was the highest country in the whole world.
Are you surprised by that, James? I'm not.
I thought it would be a little bit more middling.
What was interesting to me was just the country split. US and the UK, which very much, democracies, free speech countries, very skeptical. Indonesia was the lowest. And again, a country much more used to sort of more control over their content uses. So I thought that was interesting that if you're used to not really having that, then you don't really mind the source as much. But,
wow. Final question from me, because you've been in the space for a while.
Yeah.
What should we be looking out for? What's some of the big things coming that might kind of take us into a new direction with AI, or what maybe something that we should be kind of cautious about and look out for, other than the things we've spoken about so far?
I think there's a long way to go in terms of some of the harms, unfortunately. The liability, and I'm speaking as a lawyer here. I think how the liability regime for the outputs. So a lot of what we talked about here is about inputs and who should get paid for that, and how you create the right ecosystem for that. I think we've got a long way to go in terms of what people use it for and how people are then accountable for the outputs of what happens. And a long way of society. When this all started and people thought about risks, everyone was just worried about end of the world type risks. And therefore, I don't think we've done enough thinking about the things that are not the end of the world type risks and the more regular kind of liability of things that happen in the world at the moment, which there are loads of laws around who's responsible for all sorts of things. But as those things that are done by AI instead of humans, how does the law kind of catch up with those? And the other thing I would just reflect on, which is sort of what we've touched on previously, but I think, unfortunately, AI has come along at a time where we've had 50, 60 years of regulatory convergence around the world. We've had the UN, we've had the World Trade Organization, we've had the EU. And those were places where global frameworks got set. Unfortunately, this new technology has come along and is disrupting societies and economies and democracies at a time where all those frameworks are being pulled apart. So the likelihood that we're ever going to have some kind of global treaty anytime in our careers, if not our lifetimes, unless politics changes radically, is very low. And so just at the time where something that's never been more global could have benefited from some sort of regulatory harmonization, I think that's unlikely. So the way in which how the UK positions itself versus the EU and the US is fascinating. But then, I sort of think there's like three versions of the internet. There's a pro-producer version in the US, a pro-consumer version in Europe, and then a pro-state solution in China and Russia. And so those three blocks are regulating according to their goals. Who does the UK decide to align with? Where does it go? And how do we find a way of having this global information flow with very, very different legal systems? Is really interesting. One
very final question from me. Do you think AI could ever do your job? Do you think AI could ever be general counsel?
Well, so I think there's lots of tasks that lawyers do that AI can do, and there's so much scope for sort of automation of contracts and those sorts of things. But in the end, I always talking to my son the other day, there's a certificate on my wall that says, I've been deemed as to have suitable character to be a solicitor in the Supreme Court. And there's a lot in this about being a lawyer that is about your character and your values and your behavior and your judgments and your ethics and your ability to help a client in a one-on-one way get through a particular solution, a particular problem. Sam Altman says he wants AI to have legal privilege and enter the legal services market and become a lawyer. But there's so much about being a lawyer that is not automatable and is about judgment, discretion, and trust between individuals. And I trust this lawyer to fix this problem for me and to share that secret, and an experience and wisdom that I think there's a long way for AI to go. And in the meantime, there's so much dedication. I've got plenty to do.
William, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for joining us.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Whoa, he was incredible.
How insightful. I don't mean to be mean to lawyers. Sometimes you like, we've got a lawyer on the show. You're like, great, but he telling me things I never really thought about.
Yeah, I wrote pages of things. The most interesting bit, well, two things I thought he said was one, this idea that the big companies can go and do deals with big companies, but what about everyone else? Particularly when we're talking about creator economy, we talked about Mr. Beast and stuff earlier. And then there's this idea, this sort of reinvention that he's calling for, and the 21st century solution to how you cracked sort of photocopying sort of earlier on when we had to tackle that. I thought it was really, really interesting. But the most profound thing, these companies will pay their electricity, they pay their people, they don't want to pay for the raw material.
It's a brilliant point.
The gold.
It's gold. Obviously, William was never going to tell us, why would he? He talked about the deal that they did at Condé Nast. Other media giants have done the same. I just can't believe they're getting paid their at least fair value for it. I can't believe it's not a little bit like Spotify, where artists are getting pennies where they used to get pounds, and they've got no choice but to get paid pennies now, and it's just the way it is. I feel like it might be a similar situation.
Well, to his credit, he did say they wouldn't have signed it if it wasn't a decent enough deal, and they did.
True, but much like Spotify, if you're not on Spotify, you're not getting anything. And anyway, loved having William on the podcast.
Yeah, he was awesome.
Brilliant guy.
And we should get YouGov. I think we should get YouGov back to do a sort of state of the nation on AI.
Oh, that'd be great. Look at some of their big trends and yeah.
Nice.
Let's make that happen. We don't have time for the AI challenge this week.
Yippee! Dope.
James is let off the hook for another day because you are still losing. Let's quickly flag that.
Yeah, I'm in a deeply reflective mood and strategizing my next steps on the AI challenge.
You need it. Maybe ask ChatGPT what you've forgotten when it comes to doing the AI challenge.
It's just not that deep.
Yeah, you're not sleeping at night.
But I know it means a lot to you, and that's cool.
It does, and I'm winning. And on that note, that's all we got time for on this week's episode of AI Having a Clue. A huge thanks to William for joining us, and a huge thanks, an even bigger thanks, to you for listening. Honestly.
Yeah, good.
That means a lot. If you have a question for us next week, if you want to tell us about something weird you've seen in AI, if you want to book us for a conference, we're available. Email us at aihaventaclue@gmail.com. As always, you can check us out on Substack, online, across the socials. Do subscribe, do rate, do share the pod if you'd like to. Thanks to Team AI Having a Clue.
Excellent this week, David. Well done.
And until next time...
Please stay curious. Please.